Morning. I'm here with Lucas Field-Arpino, a close friend of Jan Tari. Jan was a gentleman who worked at the Nursing and Midwifery Council in up until 2023, and we were lucky enough to record a podcast with him about his experiences whilst working there and his treatment as a whistleblower when he raised concerns. Jan sadly took his own life last year, and I know you, Lucas, and his family are keen that his story is not forgotten and that something positive comes out of all of this. So I think it would be really helpful for people to just kind of understand a little bit about Jan, who he was, the man that he was, the friend that he was.
Happily, I'll tell you. Jan and I first met down a gay bar in Ealing
Yeah.
because he really liked the music and he enjoyed being around people.
Yeah.
And we hit it off because we're both quite nerdy. So from that day onwards, we used to send each other text messages for homework for each other to look up,
Right.
whether it be a rare plant in Africa or a fish the size of a fingernail. We'd find each other little interesting tidbits to
Yeah.
talk about.
Yeah.
And he was genuinely the kindest man I've ever met. He
Mm.
would listen to you. He would even mention things that you'd forgotten
Yeah.
weeks later just to check that you were okay. If you had anything going on that was stressing you out, he was there for you. He was a real constant and always put everyone around him, before him.
Yeah.
He'd drop anything to be there for someone if he knew that he was making a positive difference.
Mm.
And I think that's why, because he was such a sensitive soul, I think that's why the NMC really really hurt him
Mm.
with their treatment of him.
And are you happy to sort of talk a little bit about his time at the NMC? I mean, obviously, Jan spoke to us about it as well. And did you
Yeah,
know anything about the NMC before he started working for them? Did you know?
no, we didn't,
No.
and I don't think Jan did either.
Mm.
But as soon as red flags were being brought up by him and he was being ignored and working crazy hours to put these reports together, and it totally consumed him.
Mm.
And it was scary to watch
Yeah.
because in the end he had to pretty much represent himself in a tribunal, and he worked his heart out to do that. he
Mm.
he did such a big report, and he made sure that it was all in legal terminology, and just so his case could be heard in the clearest possible way
Yes.
and not misconstrued or not pushed aside or swept under the carpet. He
Yeah.
wanted it to be like, these are the things are what's happening, these
Yeah.
are the things that need to change, and this is how they can be changed.
Yeah.
He was very he had a very strong moral compass.
Yes. And I know when he spoke to me, he said actually the things that he was raising were quite simple to sort
Yeah,
out. They were quite
yeah,
straightforward and they weren't any great. They weren't going to sort of change the world, but they were going to make a big difference to the work that the NMC were doing.
yes. I think
Yeah.
he said there was like garbage going in and garbage going out in the
Right.
podcast.
Right. Yes, he was
um
because he was a data analyst, wasn't he?
yes, he was, yeah.
Yeah.
And he'd been a very successful man in his field up until the NMC, which just knocked every bit of confidence out of him.
Okay. Okay. And he
It made him question himself a lot when he
yeah.
knew he was doing the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was a really must have been a really difficult time to watch for you as well.
Oh, it was tragic to watch
Mm.
because every time the crisis team came to see him, my wife Cherry or I would say, we really think he needs to go back into the hospital.
Mm.
Things are we're running out of time,
Yeah.
and they just brush it off and say, okay, we'll come and visit you tomorrow. They
Yeah.
ask you if you have any plans, and if you are planning to commit suicide, you're not going to say yes to the crisis team. So that
No.
seems like a redundant question to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so much of what happened was, you know just a massive letdown for Jan.
Yeah.
He slipped through the cracks in the worst possible way.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I understand there's human error, and I understand that people can be trained better now to handle the situation, but it's a bit little too late, and somebody
Yeah.
actually died.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't like, oops, somebody missed their meds for a week, or,
Yeah.
somebody actually took their own life.
Yeah.
And they weren't listening to us, they weren't listening to him.
Mm.
It was so frustrating. Terry and I even considered sleeping on his driveway in the car to
Bless
make
you.
sure that he'd be at home
To be
safe.
safe. Yeah, and you did
Yeah,
so much of that safety netting for him, didn't you, yourselves, because he wasn't getting that from the services.
yeah. Well, for the first time he attempted was on the 16th of September
Yeah.
2024. And by the graces of the powers that be, we got an email at 6 o'clock in the morning
Mm.
from Jan, and for some reason it binged, and we read it because there's no way
Yeah.
we would have been up normally at that time.
Yes. Yeah.
And he'd taken a huge overdose and was found in his garden shed.
Yeah.
And we realised that he'd given up his tenancy on his flat and given away 95% of his possessions.
Right.
So Jan had to come and live with us when he came out of the hospital.
Yeah.
And then we found him a home like a road across from us. He
Yeah.
was at the end of this beautiful road in a really, really nice house with an elderly lady who loved plants as well. So,
Yes. Yeah.
it was the best place for him,
Best
and
place
he
for.
needed his own space. But the crisis team would come and see him there, and Judith used to make us all cups of tea,
Yeah.
and it was all very nice. But the crisis team, I've had dealings with them in the past as well, and I don't put my faith in them at all,
No. No. It's
especially
very.
after this
Yeah.
huge loss, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
tragedy.
It is, it is. And I know after that first attempt, I think the email that he sent you, he'd copied into a number of people as well, hadn't he? Including
Yes.
the NMC and the chair of council and
Yeah.
various reporters and things as well. And that certainly
I think there
alerted
was an
me to it.
MP as well.
There was, yeah. And he was, really, to me felt like he was just trying to shout to everybody, will you please start listening
Absolutely.
now? Yeah.
Well, at the end of the second inquest, Mr. Arrow, who was the coroner,
Yeah.
and not the who did the report and
Yeah.
held the inquest, said with the way that Jan did it and where he left himself, he wanted it to be public and he wanted people to see
Mm,
him.
mm,
And I
mm.
think if anything comes from this positive, then it has to, because otherwise it's such a waste.
Yes, yeah. And you've kindly and the family have kindly agreed for NMC Watch to set up a memorial fund in Jan's name.
Oh,
And
yes.
it's going to help us raise funds so that we can give better support to those people going through fitness to practice, so nurses and midwives predominantly. But it's also going to help us, hopefully, be able to collect data as well on the people that we're seeing
Yeah.
and be able to show the patterns of the way that they're being treated and the experiences they're having. Why is
Yeah.
that important to you and Jan's family for us to do that?
Because no life should be lost.
Mm.
And I've heard I've heard your podcasts and your TikToks that there have been several suicides, and
Yeah.
it's just abhorrent. It's corrupt.
Mm.
It's it like Jan said, it goes up high in the echelons,
Yeah.
obviously, and
Yeah.
changes need to be made.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, you're the member of public that the NMC is there to serve, if you like. And
Absolutely.
yeah, you're the person that they are there for. So hopefully they may start listening now that you're saying them things need to change drastically. Have you got any polite message you'd like to put forward to the NMC at all?
Please take accountability for your staff's concerns.
Mm,
Please listen to people who entrust you with their careers and their livelihoods.
yeah.
You know, jobs can come and go, but you don't have to be destroyed from the inside.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Lucas. And I'm really grateful to you for speaking to us. Particularly, it's nearly a year now since Jan took his life, and it's all extremely raw, I know. And we're all thinking of you and thinking of his family, and just really grateful that you're able to support us as well at this difficult time. So thank you for that.
You're most welcome. If any good comes from it and it saves another life, then Jan's work was done in his
Yeah.
mind.